No, all the snow's gone.
What?
In like 3 days.
Oh, I ain't complaining.
I miss it, man. I want to go skiing.
Shoot,
Man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I also grew up on skis.
Hey, all my major injuries have come from it, but I love it all the same.
Grew up in a little interior town, interior British Columbia.
Right.
Very small school. I was the only kid in second grade.
What?
Yeah, it was nuts. So,
Holy shit.
but like because of that, every single field trip was just to the local ski hill or like the skating rink. But yeah.
Oh,
so
I love that.
it was a lot of that, and I do miss it a lot.
Dude, one day we'll get on a
The
nice
Blond
big hill.
radio ski trip.
Yeah, somewhere between BC and Alberta, there's a beautiful mountain waiting for us.
I think that's just Banff.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brad. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Bellingham, Washington.
I'm from Denver, Colorado.
I'm in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada.
And wherever you are, welcome to Blond Radio. Hi, I'm Brad. I live on the west coast of Canada. I've really been enjoying spooky season, and I'm trying to catch as many sunsets as I can before they leave for the winter. And welcome to Blond Radio, where every week I book calls with strangers from around the world. Today we'll talk to Austin about his music and instrumental project Harbor Day, Courtney, whose childhood struggles led her to finding herself, and Cameron, who's gained new perspectives in his life and shares how you can too. But first, this week at Blond Radio on Instagram, I gave you a prompt. What advice would you give to your past self? Here's what you had to say.
Hey, I'm Marcus. I'm from Arizona. Advice I would give to myself would be just do it. There are a lot of times when I was a kid, and even now, that sometimes I have this idea that I want to make a video or something on TikTok, and I'm always like, maybe people won't get it. I'm not going to do it. You got to think, no, I'm going to do it. And even if it doesn't work, it was worth the process of it, the whole idea. Maybe I'll search something different that I never thought about. Maybe I'll learn something new. You know, it's always good to have an idea and work everything. When you're done, you could be like, okay, should I post it or not?
Hi, my name is Izumi and I'm calling from France. If I can give an advice to my past self is let the time do what he has to do. It's okay to not be okay. You don't have always to smile, to always be happy. You can cry if you want, be angry. Just live your life.
Hey Brad, my name is Calvin. I'm calling in from Hamilton, Ontario. And advice I'd give to my past self would probably be not to be afraid to meet and talk to new people. I'm slowly coming out of my shell right now, and I kind of wish I've done so a lot earlier. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that I may have missed, and you can't really put out good energy into the world unless you meet new people.
Hey, this is Gala from Mexico City, and some advice I'd love to give my younger self is embarrassment is just in your head. You just need to laugh it off. And that sounds stupid, like we all get embarrassed for sure, yes, but stop making a big deal out of it. You're noticing it.
Hi, I'm Boris. I'm calling from Moscow, and advice I would give to my best self is to go out there and talk. So much in my life changed when I stopped overthinking conversations and started just talking to people.
Thanks to everyone for submitting their responses, and we'll hear more answers throughout today's show.
Hi.
Hello, how's it going?
How are you doing?
Doing well, yourself?
It's going pretty well. I had kind of a slow rise kind of day, laid in bed with my partner for a while, tried out like a new boba place in town.
Oh, amazing.
Which is really cool. Yeah. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, which randomly happens to be the land of many boba tea places, but this is the first time in like a few months that I've gotten it, and it really feels like a treat.
Totally.
So
much needed. And then Austin, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Bellingham, Washington.
Yo, you're super close. I'm just up on Vancouver Island, right
That's
near
awesome.
Vancouver. Yeah.
I was watching some of your stuff on YouTube, and like you said that you were from like Western Canada. I'm like, wow, that's really close. Holy cow.
Yeah, definitely. Pacific Northwest is something I will treasure forever. You know, I've moved around a bit. I've been interior. Definitely want to stay here now.
Oh, for sure.
Cool. I guess just off the bat, give me the pitch on you and Harbor Day and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so my name is Austin, and I make music under the moniker Harbor Day, which is driven from a lot of stressful times in the wonderful land of Bellingham, Washington. I've always chosen to go to like the coastline. That was something that was never super available to me living anywhere else. It immediately brought me this sense of like kind of like a completely different space. As I've fostered that relationship a bit more with like going out to the coastline, I've like felt more of a desire to like, I guess, interact with it in a way. Like even as it's getting into fall and stuff, I do try every now and again to like jump in the water or something, because it like just like shocks your system and really pulls you out of whatever funk you're in. It's like instant meditation, if that makes sense. I wanted my music to feel calming and, if nothing else, like relatable. I want my music to be like just its own little like bubble of like tranquility, or if nothing else, just like a different place where you can stay for a while.
And yeah, because harbor, that's calm waters amidst uncalm waters. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, am I reading this right? You're releasing 21 songs this year?
Yeah, if not like a little bit more. I have had plans for this big album, Ursa Major, which was going to be 21 songs for a while. I wanted to do it like not this past summer, but the summer of 2019. And I was like, this would be an excellent way to like really push myself, find my voice as a producer, and also like really develop a good sense of what organization I need to have as a musician, an independent musician, to make sure that I am balancing work, life, music, which as much as it's a hobby, it also turns into secondary work the moment you have deadlines, which isn't a bad thing. Work is just the effort that you put in. It's not necessarily like this terrifying label that you put on things where it's like, oh, I'm doing this so I can survive type thing. Sometimes it can live in more of a gray area, which is really just really nice. But yeah, 21 songs plus some transitions that I'm going to do to make everything feel a bit more like cohesive. From a more practical standpoint of like, oh, I'm gotta market my music and everything. It's just kind of like, it's hard to put a label on like what this album is going to be besides like an audio journal. All of the topics that are discussed, like they're overarching topics of like kind of Peter Pan syndrome and wishing that I was a little kid still. Innocence, the harshness of needing to develop at a pace that the world decides for you, but also the momentary concepts of like, oh shit, there's a pandemic. I hate to say that I dove into, you can make songs about whatever you want, but I felt weird about being among the ranks of people who made quarantine songs. But like I tried to wrap it up enough so that it wasn't super on the nose as like everybody else's experience. I wanted it to still kind of be like my grappling with it.
From what I've heard of your music so far, definitely its own thing. I really appreciate the style you're working with. And then as far as, you know, the artistic process and the whole journey of it all, because sometimes being in the arts can be a bit of a lonely existence at times.
For sure.
A lot of solo work. How do you feel best supported by the people around you?
I feel very lucky to say that I have a good combination of people in my life where I am living in a house with all musicians currently, which is like very excellent for me in this transitionary part of life where I just graduated and I like just now have a job and I'm kind of adapting to adult life, but I don't want to let go of like creativity or like childlike wonder. So they support me a lot. They support my ideas a lot. And my partner is more of like a STEM person that goes to, you know, focuses primarily on like mathematics and like more logic and reasoning. But when it comes to like comfort and stuff for her, she really comes to creative endeavors of like crafting, lots of painting. And I feel like I'm supported in like a bunch of different ways because of that. Because from her perspective, she views like the stuff that I'm doing as like something that should be therapeutic. She sits me down every now and again when I'm like overworking myself and she says like, just remember that like as much as you have like personal deadlines, also I want to make sure you're still having fun with this. When she does say it, it like sticks, you know. It's another like jumping in the cold water thing. It's a wake up call of like, I have been pushing this in such a way that it feels more like a means of survival than like something that enhances your existence. Like the French have a phrase, vivre pour manger n'est pas manger pour vivre, which is like live to eat, don't eat to live, which I think is such a true statement of anything in your life that should be romanticized a little bit more. Because like it's really easy to get into just a regimented schedule. Having other people or having ways that you can interpret things yourself that make things feel more interesting really help. And I think that's one of the great powers of having other people in your life. By default, they're going to have a different perspective.
Yes.
By default, they have a different brain and they're going to have their own opinions that kind of act as a mirror. It's literally bouncing your ideas off of them, where as soon as they have an interpretation that they pass back, it makes you think more critically about even like the simple decisions that you've made. Like I've talked to some people that were like really confused about the fact that I made songs that were instrumental as well as songs that like had vocals. And some people were like, why are you working in like multiple genres? And there are other people that like really supported these ideas. But all of those things help you kind of dig away at the marble a little bit more and really try and figure out who you are as a creative underneath. You're constantly going to be etching away at that marble for your whole life because you may have this idea of like, I want to be this person. I get into this issue a lot where like I fall in love with so many different like bands and groups that I'm like, oh man, I really want to emulate this sound. Like the next day I'm like, ooh, but like as much as I want to be Vampire Weekend, I also want to be like Frank Ocean or something like that. I'm like, how am I going to like make this live in the same universe of like work that I'm creating? Once again, that's where other people help along the way. If you don't see the immediate like bridges that you're looking for, sometimes just asking somebody else's opinion can help out quite a bit.
I love that. That's so true. Some of my best ideas have come through the lens of outside input. Like, of course, the original idea, what you bring to the table, but then it's that chiseling down, it's that refining process that is just so difficult if you don't have a support group around you.
Oh, for sure. Because like people talk about this like sociopolitically, but in regards to creative endeavors, like if you live in an echo chamber, your ideas will be like very different than the ideas you'll have when it's more of like a conversation that you engage in.
Exactly. Thank you.
Everybody wants that connection. Yeah,
They really
welcome.
do.
You're welcome.
They really do. Austin, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and speaking with me and sharing your story. In closing, I was wondering, what advice could you give to someone who wants to start maybe a larger scale artistic project with no previous experience? Because that, if anything, can be so daunting to look up at stuff. Even you're speaking to artists that you admire and look up to take that first step and say, hey, why not me? What would you say to them?
Yeah. It's a multifaceted thing, but the biggest thing will always be to set your guidelines high, but your expectations low. Always have something that feels more strict to keep you in check. Like I'm going at a rate now where to finish up this album, I have to make another EP by the end of this next month. And then the last 3 songs and 5 transitions by the end of December. But set your expectations low, not necessarily be down on yourself, but just say that like, just be forgiving. Say that it's okay if I don't hit this deadline. It's here as a light at the end of the tunnel for me to look forward to, but make sure that you are the most loving to yourself as possible because your work will flourish if you allow yourself to be loving. And also just know when your best working hours are. Like that's super helpful too. I figured out that I'm like a crazy night owl. And like I've told my roommates that like if you just hear me like rustling downstairs and grabbing a bass guitar off the wall and bringing it into my room, it's like I'm like in real goblin hours now.
Totally. Yeah, you gotta find your own rhythm. Yeah, and be loving.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Sweet. I do hope you get some productive work done, and if not, some nice relaxing time today. And we'll definitely be in touch. I'll be around.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'd love to stay in contact.
Hell yeah. All right, Austin. Have a lovely rest of your day.
All right, have a good one, Brad. Take care.
You too. Ciao.
Hey, I'm Sophie. I'm calling from Caracas, Venezuela. And if I could give advice to my past self, as obvious as it sounds, it would be to not stress much over the things I can't change. They're eventually gonna happen, and I just have to be okay with it. And keep moving forward.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to hear you. Hello, I'm Brad. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Courtney. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. Courtney, how's your day?
Pretty good. Doing well. Just another day in quarantine. Doing high school is in quarantine is definitely interesting.
I can really imagine. I really can. And
Yeah.
where are you calling from?
I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know some people from there. That's very cool. Awesome. I think just off the bat, give me the pitch on you. You know, who you are, what you do, and what sort of got you to where you are today. It's very broad, but, whatever you're comfortable with.
Of course. Well, as of right now, I'm a senior in high school. I'm very passionate about creating things, making people happy, and just like taking care of others and yourself. I'm one of those people that will focus on other people before focusing on myself, which is very bad, but you can't forget about yourself, especially in a time like now, I guess.
Absolutely. You mentioned in your initial message you sent me maybe a different experience you had growing up than maybe what most people go through.
Oh, yeah. So I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, probably from the time that my oldest brother was a kid, so 25 years, my family was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up in that way is very interesting, especially when all of like the memes were going around like back in like 2016, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, I was still part of the church, I guess. Now I am very much not for a long time. I want to say 5 years. But growing up with like your entire family and something and then not being part of it
Mm-hmm.
for a while is very conflicting, because if family members or friends aren't a part of the congregation, you get very ostracized. So it was a very nerve-wracking thing to decide at the age of 13, being like, no, I don't want to do this. And for the longest time, I didn't conform to a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And now I currently am a practicing witch, which my family wasn't super excited about, I'm not going to lie. But
Yeah.
they're like, at least you believe in something. So
Yeah. And as far as like, I mean, very similarly, I grew up in a very conservative. Have you heard? I'm not sure if you've heard of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but more conservative. And that's amazing to hear that you sort of found your own choice in that when you were 13, because I waited till I was like in high school, and it was only at that point that I started to step away. And you're right. It's tricky when your extended family, your friends, the people you see the most regularly are still in it. What was that like, grappling with these kind of two worlds that you now created?
So at the age of 13 as well, that's when my relationship with my father started getting a bit rocky.
Yeah.
So deciding that I didn't want to conform to the religion he was part of was very, I guess, I don't know how to phrase it, controversial in my family, I guess is the best way to put it. It got to the point where it got so bad where I would have to spend the night at my friend's house, or my brother's girlfriend is super supportive of me.
Oh, wow.
And girlfriend at the time, now his wife, is super supportive of me. So she would let me stay with her as well. It was a rough time. It really was a rough time. And then I think it was even more difficult because when I was 15, my father passed away. So it was very difficult grappling with how the last few years of his life between me and him,
Mm-hmm.
how our like interactions went. It was very difficult knowing that's where sadly we had to leave off. And it's even more difficult when everyone who comes to support you was a part of that religion. And I'm super grateful for all of them who came to my house and flooded us with love and supported us and helped us raise money to like help afford the house and stuff. But it's just weird because the entire time they're like, you should really come back to the truth, as they call it. So
Yeah. And that can be really difficult. And even today I see it more in like people aligning their political beliefs with their identity. But I find that too in religion. The religion becomes the identity. But for you, what was the hardest part with coming to terms with your identity and who you are when you'd been in an environment that had like suppressed that?
Yeah. So when I was about 13 as well, I guess. Yeah. I realized that I wasn't straight. I thought I was bi at first. Turns out I'm just full-blown gay. But growing up being told that homosexuality is a sin, and if you engage in it or you act on it, you're going to hell or whatever your religion believes in. It's very difficult because the entire time I was a child, I've been conditioned to think that I am who I am and I am sinning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very difficult. I didn't get the chance to come out to my father because he died before I came out to anyone. But just realizing that it was a sin of who I was, because again, my brother's now wife, then girlfriend, super supportive of me, and she's actually pansexual.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first person that I like called when I was like, oh crap, because she grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
So she knows the struggle of identity and religion. My mother was a bit after, I want to say like a couple months after my father died, which a bit much at once, really bad timing, I will admit. And then the rest of my family was actually about a year ago when I told them. So, and they're all super supportive. I know that they're not super excited for that, but they still like love me and appreciate me. But I still get the occasional Bible verse text from like an aunt or like a random uncle.
Don't we all
And I'm
know?
just like, yeah, I'm like, come on, guys. It's been so long. Like,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
That can be frustrating. That's interesting, and especially like playing into those moralities so heavily as the church and tying it to who you are. Is there room for gray, or is everything all good or all bad in your perspective?
I don't believe the world is a black and white place.
Yeah.
I believe that everything is on a scale of gray. I don't believe that someone can be purely evil. Like, it's just impossible. There has to be a side of light. I see everyone as like a shade of gray, whether or not it's like darker or lighter, but like it doesn't really make sense to see things through a black and white lens to me. I used to be way more narrow-minded growing up, but now I'm like, I see the spectrum of good and bad, and there's always good within a bad person, no matter how hard you try to antagonize them, I guess is the word for that.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely difficult, especially coming up in a world because I was born after everything like that has been a tragedy in the US ever, 9/11, all that stuff. And people are like, these people are terrorists, or these people are really bad people and you shouldn't like them. I always questioned that growing up, because you can't assume everyone in a group of people are bad. It's just not a good thing.
Totally. I don't know how like the Jehovah's Witness stance on this is, but as far as like my denomination growing up, it was to the point of extremity where we were told like our truth was like the only truth, and even other practicing denominations like Baptists, Protestants, whatever, they got it wrong, and therefore they didn't get salvation. And when you discredit so much of other people's lives and existence, like that, there's so many different worldviews. They can't all be right.
Oh, yeah, 100%. The Jehovah's Witnesses outlook on it is that same thing.
Yeah.
Even if you're under the great umbrella that is Christianity, you're still not right unless you're a Jehovah's Witness. That's just how it was growing up. I always found it so confusing, because if they all read from the same Bible and they all interpret it similarly, or even the same in some concepts, how are they wrong? Is it just because of the label?
Exactly.
Like, it never made sense to me growing up.
No.
I tended to question a lot of things growing up, and it got me into so much trouble, but it was worth it in the end, because now I am who I am.
Exactly. I love that. I'm so glad that you found yourself, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Of course.
Awesome. Courtney, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day to speak with me and tell me your story.
Yeah, of course.
I was wondering, what advice would you give to someone who's struggling to move past choices or lifestyle issues they had in their past? Regret and even like nostalgia to some point can delve into maybe toxic nostalgia where you're just like brooding on old things. What would you say to someone who's trying to move forward?
I know how easy it is to focus on the past and focus on strictly your mistakes. But for your own mental sanity and your mental health, you have to stop looking at what could have been, what could be, and focus on the now.
Yeah.
Because that is the only thing that you can control physically. And if you have those anxieties of what could be or what could have been, you're not going to get forward in life. You're going to stay in the same place, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's really, I like that. I mean, there's definitely been points in my life where I was just hung up on old friendships, old relationships, whatever. And if, yeah, you get stuck and you watch life move past you, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
Damn. Thank you for that, Courtney. That's very beautiful.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome. Again, thank you again for speaking and telling me your truth and your story and your word.
Thanks for letting me have a voice for that.
Always. Absolutely. Well, I'll definitely be in touch and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, dude.
Ciao.
Hi, I'm Daria. I'm calling from Russia, and if I could give just one advice to my past self, I would just say, please, I know it's quarantine, I know you're bored, but please do not cut your bangs. You're gonna regret it so many times. It's gonna look embarrassing. Please just do not cut your bangs.
The man, the myth,
the legend,
the mix master himself.
That's what they call me.
They really do. Hello, Cameron.
Hello, Brad.
How's it going?
It's good, man. How's it going for you?
It's fresh. You win those league games? You copping some W's?
I might have inted a little bit, honestly, but it wasn't ranked, so it's all part of the fun.
That's what counts. Developing the skill. Hell yeah. And you're calling from Calgary right now?
Right now, I'm in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
But I will be, most of my time, I try to spend in Calgary because that's home for me.
Right. Cameron, you know the rundown. You know how it is. Give me the elevator pitch on you.
Oh, man. I've been waiting for this one.
Turn it up.
Yeah, my name's Cameron. I was born in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Grew up pretty normally. Everything was pretty chill. The first, 10, 13 years of my childhood went through a bit of a rough patch from like 13 to 18. And then as of recently, I've been trying to turn things around for myself and trying to better myself in a lot of ways and open my worldview to a lot of new things because I've noticed a couple of things that made me notice that it's been very tight and a little bit of an echo chamber. So I've been trying recently to open myself up to a lot of new things.
Interesting. What made you notice that you were maybe in an echo chamber?
Honestly, I didn't notice until my girlfriend and I started dating for a long time. And she comes from a background that is very different from mine. And so as me and her have developed our relationship and we've gone into more in-depth topics and personal topics, it made me come to realize that a lot of the things that I knew, I don't want to say was very sheltered, but I was just not aware of a lot of things that were going on and a lot of struggles that people were going through outside of my own. And so that has kind of spiraled into trying to do a lot of things just to make myself a more rounded person and a much more developed person.
I adore that.
Thank
so
you.
much. Because I feel like we definitely all know people that maybe haven't hit that yet. And I know some maybe older people in my life that I question if they ever did. So
Right. It's just, they don't know, right? And it takes the one little thing to create the snowball that just makes you want to be the best of yourself.
Exactly. Now tell me about the music. Tell me about what is it from music that draws you? Because even, man, you be posting songs. I see one of your highlights there that's been going for well over a year now. Songs are into.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I guess a lot of it comes from my dad. A lot of my favorite memories with him are him and me vibing to a lot of different music. He listened to a lot of Tool, a lot of Meshuggah, things like that. And as his taste kind of developed and he was showing me new stuff, my taste kind of developed with that. And so as me and him were discovering new music together, that kind of became a really important part of my life. And so when I was about 15, 16, I started looking into making music because everyone, tries the cracked version of whatever DAW, tries making beats for a year and it's just like, yeah, this is fun. And then I saw the university here, where I'm at right now, offered a digital audio program. That's less about making music and being in a recording studio, which was really cool because it was basically the only program in Western Canada that I could get an actual degree out of instead of a basic certificate. I was in grade 12 and it was March and I'm like, I need to apply for university right now. So I booked the local application and I booked one down here and I got into both. And I'm like, I got to do this one because it just seemed so much more diverse and I felt like I could get a lot of new skills out of it. And now I'm in my 4th year, which is crazy to think about. out of 5 years. And I'm just like, man, it's been a crazy ride, especially the last 2 years. I didn't really know what I was doing, but then everything kind of started clicking in like my 2.5 year. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
It's all coming together.
Now I'm looking into job prospects that are not exactly what I was expecting to be doing, but excites me nonetheless because they're ideas that I had never really considered.
Exactly. Initially I got into the arts because I was like, I like stories and visual mediums, but the more niche you get, you realize, oh shoot, there's so many possibilities if you're willing to go that far. And you Cameron, you strike me as someone who is very willing to go that far. So I'm excited to see where you end up.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of asking questions and reaching out to people who know what they're talking about. That was one of the best decisions I ever made, honestly, was talking to some of my professors and the staff here and just be like, listen, I don't really know what I want to be doing as I finish this career. And I had a talk with one of my professors like a week ago, and he listened to me all these ideas, and I'm like, oh, this could be really cool. And no one's really doing it right now. And it gets me excited.
Hell yeah. That's amazing, man. Would you say, and this is kind of like a big existential question.
All right.
Would you say you're the happiest you've been right now? If not, why and what goes into that for you?
As an adult or like not a child, yes. I think I am. Like before, like pre like 13-year-old me, I may have been, had the childhood innocence that would have made me a little bit happier. But as of right now, I do believe really I'm in the best position I've been in as a walking, talking, thinking human being, just because of the amount of times I've fallen and I've known something's gone wrong and I know I need to change things, and the slow build of progression and changing things just kind of, you don't notice it happening, but as you look back to like where you were 2 years ago, and I'm like, oh, this is what I was doing, and this was not good. And now I'm here, and I think this is good. As long as I keep moving in that direction, I think I will be even better than I am today, which I hope for.
That's amazing. I love that. As you're speaking to this slow build of building upon yourself and your character, what actions would you say you take daily to stay in sort of that positive future forward state? Man,
the first start has been physically. I grew up the bigger kid and everything like that, so I've been taking various attempts to try and work on myself physically and trying to make myself the best that I can be in that department, as well as mentally. I've been taking the time to distance myself from people who were not bringing positive contributions into my life. My first couple years of uni, I was surrounding myself with people who, looking back now, were not necessarily benefiting my mental health, whether it's friendships or exes. And I didn't know how bad it was taking a toll on me till I got out of it. And I look back and I'm like, oh, this was really bad. I know what I need to look for when I'm talking with new people, and knowing what good qualities I actually want to look for in new relationships in all aspects of the term.
Exactly.
And just taking the time to doing like the little things like calling family, reaching out to people who you want to talk to, but you're too afraid to, like just doing it. And half the time, people have done it to me, and it's always like an incredibly exciting moment. A lot of progression, honestly.
Yeah. And it kind of sucks, but sometimes it takes like getting burned to see what you need. Yeah, you could either be hung up on that, or you could, as you're speaking to, just like use it as an opportunity.
Yeah, and for some people like myself, it took getting like burnt to a crisp almost mentally, like just not knowing like what was going on, and just taking the step to like, I'm going to stop this downward descent right here. Like this needs to not happen anymore. Not necessarily being like, okay, I'm going to be better tomorrow. Just like you start slow, and then as it gets easier, you start working towards it. And that kind of helps make it easier to put yourself in a position where you want to be, I find.
Love that. Love that so much, man. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you for taking time out of your day, your evening, your
the
closing
mid to late
hours.
Evening.
Yeah. In closing, what advice could you give to someone who's trying to maybe move past obstacles, challenges that they've experienced earlier in their life? We've spoken to it a little bit, but could you speak to more maybe how you can harness those negative experiences?
Being able to understand what you're going through at the moment, I think, is the hardest part. And for a lot of people, that's really hard because, you know, it might be all you know. And this was something I had to learn the hard way. Reaching out to people is okay when you are in a place where you do not feel like you should be, because you feel like you might be a burden to people. Like, the hardest step I had to take was being able to reach out to people, like family, friends, relationships, and just being like, listen, I'm not in a place where I want to be right now. And I'm sure you know this because, you know, these people have been hanging out with me. What can I be doing that you think would be benefiting me? And if you're surrounding yourself with people who want the best for you and care for you, they will be there to help you. That is something that really has changed everything for me.
Damn. It really do be all about community.
Exactly. The Discord, man. I got to blame the people on there for opening me up to even more ideas. Right?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely incredible how much I didn't know and how much I do know now in the terms of like 2 months.
Oh.
Just because of the people I've reached out and connected with.
Exactly. I mean, even for me, as far as like, yeah, I'm reaching out and I'm speaking to all these people. I'm doing all these interviews, but like the Discord is just like that times 10.
Yeah, and it's the practices that I learned because of everything that had gone through with my life, that I'm able to like reach out to people and be like, hey, listen, what can I be doing better? And that's a really powerful thing, because a lot of times you just focus in on yourself and you miss some of the things that might be super obvious to other people. So being able to reach out and everything like that cannot understate how vital that has been to my development personally.
I love to hear it. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Cameron, thank you again. Thank you for sharing your story.
Hey, anytime, my man.
Of course. And as always, we will definitely be in touch. I will talk to you very soon.
Oh, yeah. All right,
Cool.
bro.
Ciao. Special thanks to Austin, Courtney, and Cameron for making this episode possible, as well as everyone who submitted a response to the prompt. Intro music provided by Wayfie, that's Wayfie, and accompanying tracks by Lowboil, that's Loboil, who can both be found on all major streaming platforms. I'll see you soon, and thanks for tuning in to Blond Radio.